Happy Sunday, ladies and gentlemen, Allincrypto here, and welcome back, guys, for what is going to be nothing short of another jam-packed daily market update. Usually these drop around 1 p.m. UK time every single day, so do become a subscriber to stay up to date with the latest and greatest things happening in the crypto space, but also the broader markets. That's exactly what we intend to do today. Over the past hour, there are rumblings that an XRP ETF has been approved and is set to launch on the 30th of April. We're going to try and break this down as much as possible. Bearing in mind it's the 27th of April today, so we're talking 3 days' time, and of course that's coming from ProShares' trust into an ETF. We're going to break this down. It seems rather strange that there's just one of these being approved. You'd expect them to approve a plethora of them. I also believe that BlackRock would enter the sort of race for an XRP ETF before an actual approval. However, we'll break this down. This has been reported on by loads of credible sources over the past couple of hours. In fact, pretty much all of them. I mean, some credible, some not. But is this just Chinese whispers, or is there something more to all of this? We're going to be starting off there, and then I want to replay a clip of Brad Garlinghouse talking about XRP replacing Bitcoin. Not replacing, but overtaking in regards to seeing broader usage in enabling a new money. And I believe personally that Bitcoin was hijacked. The initial Satoshi's vision is not what is being followed today, really by any stretch of the imagination. That's my honest opinion. We're very unpopular for it. We lose a lot of people because people want to believe in a savior. In a world like the one that we face today, and it's a beautiful world, but it's a very controlled world that seems to be heading on a very dark direction, certainly in the Western world. And people want to believe in a savior, and they want to believe that Bitcoin is it. And I don't believe it is, and I don't think that they would give control of money, which has been used throughout history. It's one of the times Jesus ever got annoyed with anybody, was with the moneylenders at the temple. But they wouldn't give control of money back just like that. And Bitcoin's narrative, and read Roger Ver's book, was hijacked into being a store of value and another asset to be speculated on, other than what it could have been, which would be an alternative monetary system outside of the realms of government or central banks. So we're not here to talk about that, but we will talk about the fact that XRP is probably going to play more of a role in enabling money, the digital money that's coming, and be the rails for that, than perhaps Bitcoin in regards to actually capturing a new form of money. So we'll look at all of that. We'll look at the cryptocurrency market. We're looking at all these falling wedges. They're all playing out. This could be the narrative that sees the crypto space go on to that next leg. ETF approvals, there's 73 of them. Seems interesting that we just have news on CoinShares or ProShares, but we'll get more on this in the week ahead, and I'm expecting it. Let's dive into what we have so far, and this is all hours old. This is from Uphold, XRP ETF approved. They cite Cointelegraph. Latest, the SEC has approved public launch date of April 30th. January, February, March, April. We're in April right now, and it's the 27th. So we're talking 3 days' time for ProShares Trust XRP ETF. Let's take a look at this. US Securities and Exchange Commission. This is the N1A. Registration under the Securities Act. Registration statement under the Investment Company Act. ProShares Trust. And then it says approximate date of proposed public offering on April 30th, 2025. Or they could have gone with 60 days after filing, immediate upon filing, etc., etc. So I think we need to hear more from the SEC. This is just a proposed public offering date. The SEC still need to approve this, but it's a very clear and imminent step in the right direction. You've got a lot of reports of this. Obviously, Cointelegraph reporting this, Crypto Beast, Cryptos R Us, Uphold, a credible source. There's a hell of a lot of reporting on this. And we'll see. I would say that this isn't 100% confirmed yet. However, it's a step in the right direction. Certainly, we've been looking at lots of falling wedges, including potentially one for XRP. And this very much seems to be playing out. And the fundamental, we were looking at for the total cryptocurrency market caps. These are all playing out nicely. Crypto ETP, so products. And a fundamental driver for these falling wedges to take place could be ETF approvals. It seems a little bit strange to me, and this is the SEC's website on it. It seems a little bit strange to me. Like here, they haven't got really anything. You know, they've got 70 days after filing pursuant to paragraph. They haven't really got the 30th of April on the SEC website. So I don't know the full story here, but this is all over Twitter, and I wanted to report it because this could be a fundamental narrative that sees the entire, because they're not just going to approve an XRP ETF, they're going to approve a wave of them, and there's 73 of them so far. And we've speculated on that being the narrative that sees the cryptocurrency embark on that next leg. And of course, XRP's price is doing quite well today. Whether now is the time or it's at a later date is still to be seen, but you are going to get more broad altcoin ETFs, and XRP is absolutely going to be one of them. And we're at a stage right now, if you look at what they're doing with stablecoins, if you look at what they're doing with real-world assets, they're going to be heavily adopted and embraced, and all the barriers in the United States are being broken down to enable this. And the coins that, or the cryptos that play a role in that are going to be worth trillions. And on that note, what I want to do is actually play a clip of Brad Garlinghouse talking about XRP rivaling Bitcoin. And if it's going to do that or get to where Bitcoin is today, Bitcoin has a $1.8 trillion market cap. XRP has a $130 billion market cap. So you're talking over a 10x in regards to XRP's price. And of course, we believe it's going to $19.27. And there's other cryptos outside of XRP that we think are going to do well and play a big role in this. You know, I could actually see this being possible. And again, going back to the statement I made at the start of the video, XRP is going to do more to transform money than Bitcoin is. Bitcoin has become a store of value. That narrative has been hijacked. It was essentially restrained in terms of scalability. Bitcoin, do you not think it's interesting, and it is interesting, that the genius, whoever he, she, they, them, what, that Satoshi Nakamoto is, and he's a genius, whoever, you know, whoever this entity is, built a protocol that could never actually practically scale. It could scale, but, and this is the small block, big block sort of dilemma, and it's a very in-depth argument that is a great one to explore, and we'd love to do that maybe on Spaces or things like that. But let's look at what Brad Garlinghouse had to say not that long ago.
From the get-go, Ripple has worked with regulators, and we have worked with regulated institutions like banks where there isn't regulatory uncertainty. And so we have found that part of the reason why XRP has performed well is because people realize, hey, wait a minute, you know, back to your question, is XRP the next Bitcoin? Back to your question, is XRP the next Bitcoin? If we work with the system to solve this problem, and we can solve that problem at scale, a problem measured in the trillions of dollars, then there's a lot of opportunity to create value in XRP.
Now, again, I always do highlight the irony of our industry spawning out of working against the system and combating the system. You know, 2008 came out. We're sick of this money proliferation. We're sick of it being a controlling mechanism. Let's create an alternative. And actually now the direction of the industry is, instead of creating an alternative, let's work with the system and just innovate it and run it on new rails that have a lot more sort of track and traceability to them. We love talking about this stuff because I think it's important. I think people need to not only understand financially, but more broadly what the game is, and then they'll be able to play it far better. And Bitcoin currently sits at a $1.8 trillion market cap, XRP 130 billion. It's going to engulf Ethereum this year, I believe. In the future, could we see Bitcoin knocked off that number one spot? Potentially. And that's a big call, because that means you're looking at an altcoin that's nearly worth $2 trillion. I think you'll see it. I think you'll see multiple $1 trillion altcoins, in fact. We want to catch them all. We're looking for the Pokemon right now. And if you obviously subscribe to the channel, we talk about a lot of them. I also have a group where I share the cryptocurrencies that I own that I think are going to play a real role in this wealth transfer that is upon us. Let's talk a little bit about price action before we talk about the weekend. So XRP, you know, on a macro structural level, it's just beautiful. And we've highlighted this. We've given an $19.27 price prediction that we've stuck to from down here. You will get there. We've got price predictions, higher projections for certain altcoins than we have for XRP that are in a similar arena, that are backed by the likes of the PayPal Mafia, Peter Thiel's founder fund, Stripe. I can go on and on and on. We get a little bit conspiratorial with it sometimes, which is always fun. Bitcoin is having a bit of a pullback. Remember, we are very bullish on Bitcoin from a macro perspective. We think you've just got continuation ahead of you. And on the smaller time frames, we were looking at a concession of falling wedges across the board. that are all going to result in upside, and they are resulting in upside. And I think for the crypto space at large, linking us back to what we looked at to start, XRP approvals or ETF approvals could be the very fundamental driver to see continuation to the upside for the space as a whole. Lots of altcoins playing out very, very well. I think you're having a little bit of a pullback today, which is just weekend angst. You know, with the only markets open over the weekend, people are going to want to see how the futures market's open. There's still a lot going on in the macro. There's a lot to contend with. And I think, until we get more resolve on everything in the kind of macro markets or the stock market, the markets are going to be a little bit choppy. But there is going to be that reassertion. I think what the Fed's doing is potentially stalling just in case something happens, but ready to sort of stimulate the economy. Let's talk about the week that you've got ahead of you from an economic data point of view. There's lots of data. We've got consumer confidence. This is still in the dogs, which is a good thing. You want to buy when others are fearful and sell when others are getting greedy and euphoric. But Wednesday's a heavy day. Got lots of PCEs, US data, unemployment data. There's a Bank of Japan rate decision. And on Friday, of course, you've got non-farm, which is a barometer for how the economy's doing, which is all stuff to watch. On a collapsing dollar. We've moved away a little bit from talking about macro stuff just because we've been so concentrated on focusing on sort of more smaller time frame, daily time frame structure that was going to set us up for continuation and bring us out of this pullback. It looks like that's all coming to fruition, and this sort of XRP ETF news is not just bullish for XRP but the industry more broadly because it means more ETFs. If this is correct and we're going to get the jury's out on it right now, even though everyone's reporting that the SEC has approved an XRP ETF, it's inevitable, it's coming. Is this it? I'm not entirely sure. We're going to need to get more news on this from the SEC and official sources and Ripple and everybody else. But there's certainly rumblings, very positive rumblings. They're not just going to approve one ETF, which is why this is quite strange, and we're not seeing more of them. They're going to approve many. I did think BlackRock would enter before this. I think BlackRock's going to file for both XRP and Solana ETF and other altcoins, baskets, etc., etc. Why wouldn't they? The demand's clearly there. I do know XRP has been one of the few altcoins that's been getting very heavily accumulated over the past few weeks, despite there being outflows broadly in regards to ETPs. Ladies and gentlemen, that's it from me. Comment your thoughts in the description, and I'll see you all on the flip side. Thanks for watching, guys. See you soon.